The one thing I always never liked that comic book industries do is they kill off a very popular, very strong superhero in the sake of shock value or to stun the readers, only to bring him back triumphantly later on down the road. I never really grasped that. I never really liked it. And if anything else, it's just pretty much like a desperation to boost comic book sales. The perfect example of this was the death of Superman that happened in the 90s. The death of Superman was made a big deal. They actually had news coverage, and add to the fact that they actually raised the price to the point where it was almost pretty much unbuyable. I think the price to own a Superman black um, cover with the symbol bleeding, the bleeding S on it was like ran for $30, even more. It was to the point where what's the point of reading it, because a lot of people who was buying it wasn't planning to open it, wasn't going to enjoy reading the story. Some bought two, one to read and one as a collector's item. That's just way too much money to own. I finally got the whole entire series as a graphic novel because it was later on released as a graphic novel, and I ended up reading it with my friend, and I never really liked it. The concept. I hated the concept for a lot of reasons. One, the death of Superman was already done. It was done, I believe, in the Justice League, the cartoon series. In that version, Superman was in a different planet, collecting minerals to fight off his reaction towards kryptonite, and where something went wrong, and the Earth revealed a big, large chunk of kryptonite. It was basically drained the life out of him. His whole body pretty much turned green. They checked his pulse and he was dead. And they buried him and launched. They actually had this big funeral. They had the pouch and everything else. And I remember them launching him into the sun. Well, it turns out he really wasn't dead. They said that he actually slowed down his heart rate to pretty much combat the radiation, the effects of the kryptonite, but it was too weak to snap himself out of it, and so they actually had to retrieve his body from the sun. This is the animation. Don't ask how they did it. They did it. And they brought him back in time because pretty much the Justice League was getting beat up by I believe, some villain, and that was in a spaceship, and only Superman pretty much can beat them. Go figure. And he did. So it was already done already, and for them to do it again, this time in comic book form, I didn't really feel it was necessary. There were some things I liked about the comic series. I liked the fact it didn't start out with just Doomsday coming out of nowhere. It started out with I believe the first chapter of the saga. You see some hand punching, and the panel said Doomsday was coming. Doomsday was coming, and you keep seeing him punching. You don't know what the hell he's punching. You don't know what the hell was going on, but you keep on saying Doomsday was coming. Doomsday was coming. I said, oh, this is very interesting. And then boom, Doomsday was finally here. But between that, Superman was fighting some, I think, gangster that was living underground. Lois was in trouble again, and this was before they actually got married, by the way. And he went and saved her. It also went forward to the Justice League, where he was talking about death. And while he's touring the situation, while I'm having this conversation, you had Doomsday in this pretty much radiation suit, with one hand pretty much tied behind his back. Pretty much, it's almost like half restrained. The other hand just open, and he's just going crazy. He's tearing people's head off. He's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And the Justice League went on there and took care of business, but they was getting beat up. One got flown, almost to the moon until Superman caught him, and that's when Superman came in the picture. When you realize this man means business is when he hit Superman with his free hand, didn't do nothing, but that kick knocked him almost halfway across the country. That's how much the hit was. Even Superman said he never felt that much power before. Which led to him going after him because he was actually hurting people. In that chapter, I will say this was almost a stunner because this actually forced me to want to read some more. Because if I had like a comic book in my hand of that event, I would actually say, "Oh, damn, he's actually doing something he never does." And that was in a scene. The house was on fire, and the kid was screaming for Superman to come save him. And Superman almost ignored the cry. He said he needed to get this guy because he needs to ignore that cry for help because this guy is going nuts. And you were saying, wait a minute, Superman, the person's going to be burned alive. You can't just leave. You can't do that. I mean, but it left it in such a crazy cliffhanger because all you saw was flame and smoke in the end. And it was like, oh, wow. He let that boy die. Of course, that didn't happen. He actually came to his senses and saved the boy. But that left for Doomsday doing all kinds of crazy stuff. In the end, we had to, he kept on going after him. Superman was getting bruised up in the end. During the end, we had that epic battle where both of them pretty much beat themselves to death. I believe how he killed Superman, I think he broke his neck from the impact of the punches because they was hitting each other so much that it broke the glass that was in front of them. They was just duking it out. And Superman was pretty much dead after that. His whole entire suit was destroyed. You see Lois Lane holding him, and that was that epic cry. And when they ended, I'm like, the first thing I said is, wow, good story. So when do you think he's gonna come back? He's gonna come back in 3 months, 4 months. Turns out he came back for almost a year. They actually stopped the series for a while, and that was doing the other stuff that was going on. You had the funeral where every last DC comic hero was there, dressed in costumes, of course. You had the situation where you had people coming out of the woodworks out of nowhere saying, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Superman, and now I can tell my story." It's also ridiculous stuff that really nobody cares. Reporters saying Superman ain't so super, he got killed and everything else. It left us in a cliffhanger when Jonathan Kent, who by the way was alive, both parents was alive in this comic book. That's how you know they actually reboot the comic book. I played one way between the 80s, the 70s and 80s, but they rebooted it, and both Martha and Kent was alive. And I'm only going to go by a guess here. The reason why they was alive in the comic book, at least Jonathan was because when he did Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, because this came out pretty much the same time as the new series was, and it was a hit back then. Both parents was alive in the series. They were both alive in the series throughout the 4 years that it was on the air. So it didn't surprise me to see that. But in this case, Jonathan Kent had a heart attack, and he's pretty much in limbo right now. And in the end, you see Superman coming out of nowhere saying, "It's me. Come with me. The place is good." And he just left it like that. And it's like, okay, didn't have no date was coming on, because normally at the end of each comic books, at least in the old days, they used to tell you the date of each comic book when it was coming out. They had nothing. So it just basically ended. And we had like a lot of Superman comic books. We had the Justice League, which was a sort of a Superman superhero comic, sort of not. But we had Superman, Action Comics, Superman the Man of Steel. I forgot the other one. I believe Superboy was another one, but it didn't come out until afterwards. And I'll explain in a little bit. So months went by, nothing's new, nothing's going on, nothing officially is happening. And then news came out, I believe, from a comic book magazine that they were trying a new experiment, saying the Superman's coming back, but in a different way. It was going to be clones, and each clone will be based on race. There will be a black Superman, a white Superman, a Hispanic Superman, and an Asian Superman. And I said, interesting. And they said each Superman would have their own book. And it turns out like this. They continue the story from what happened to Jonathan Kent. Jonathan, basically did not go with his son, but he wanted to save him, and he was fighting the demons and everything else. And something happened. He actually got him, and they went back to the real world. You see him waking up from his heart attack. He's talking to him all the time, "Our son is back," and everything else. And then something happened. You start seeing these Supermans coming out of nowhere. First, I think the first one was Superboy. No, first one was Steel. Then you had this other Superman who had glasses on with no cape. Nice suit, but the glasses was something I didn't like. Then you had Superboy, even though he didn't want to be called Superboy. And he was actually he actually was a popular character for a while until they killed him off. And you had the Cyborg one. And the Cyborg one was a very interesting because the Cyborg one played a very important part in that whole entire saga. And there are four Superman. So you had all these Supermans now in the fold. And I remember was reading all of them. I read all of them, collected all four of them, and I said, okay, this may look good. I followed each one of them, but after I kept reading it, I said, this is pointless. It doesn't make any sense. You know something's going to happen eventually. One of the things I did not like was I hated the Cyborg one. He took the body of Doomsday, threw it in space. We didn't know he was dead or alive until actually at the very end when he came back. But it never felt like this was going to last. It never felt they was doing this as a gimmick. And it was an unnecessary gimmick. I forgot what happened, but I believe Lex Luthor, who was wearing a toupee at that time, he was wearing a hairpiece. That's why I want to remember, because I remember fully that when in the funeral, Lex Luthor was gloating, saying, "I finally beat you. You're gone." Next thing we know, when Superman finally returned, it was him who actually played a role in him coming back. Go figures. But Superman came back with his nice long hair now, and pretty much he resumed as the reporter of the Daily Planet, which this must be the most dense newspaper company, because how do you not know that Clark Kent was missing the whole time? Did you not made the match that Clark Kent and Superman are one the same? Are you going to tell me that he was actually on vacation the whole time? But that's pretty much the gist of the Superman saga, from his death even to his life, and I felt it was just a waste of time. I really did. Most dramatic deaths are a waste of time, because you're not. I'll always say they're gonna bring him back eventually. They're not gonna stick with the same character. No one's ever gonna follow a different character. I think the only character that actually got away with it, at least in DC, was I think the Flash. I think they had like 5 Flashes doing their run. I know they have a hell of a lot of Green Lanterns. The Green Lantern saga is the one saga I think that that had like more, I think, death situation where a character actually died and actually never came back. At least in the normal universe, and that's largely because anybody can wear the ring, and that's the big premise. Batman, his back was broken, but you know he was going to come back eventually. I think he died twice in the DC universe, still came back. So I don't feel that these deaths or these catastrophic things are necessary unless you want to make them stay dead. And let's be honest, Superman was not going to stay dead, especially when they had a hit TV series in already doing well on ABC. So I just felt it was a waste of time. I really did. And the story, don't get me wrong, was pretty good. I actually liked the way they did the story. It definitely tested Superman's limits in terms of him, how far is he willing to go to protect others? Is he willing to make that sacrifice? And he almost did. I actually thought for a moment there that he actually ignored the cry for help just to get Doomsday. He really almost did. I'm like, wow. That was pretty much the strongest point of the whole entire book series. The other strongest point was, of course, the dramatic fights, the ending fight of the comic. But that was the one that really says, geez, Superman doesn't normally do that. Superman will let him go and get him later. But no, he was really thinking about that. He really was thinking about that. And it makes, it definitely, that was the story that kept me reading. It really was. Even though I had the graphic novel, I was like, I don't think I want to read any more of this because it doesn't make any sense. But it was that one chapter in that whole entire series that kept me going, and I'm actually glad I did. For me, I didn't have any dramatic effect on it. I didn't really felt that. I never felt shocked. I never felt saddened. I never felt that he was truly gone. I was young, and I said he's not gone. He's going to come back. He's going to come back, and he did came back. Finally, after all the clones were pretty much eradicated, and they had a big celebration. Made a big thing about it. Superman is back, and the celebration. They had like a banner saying "Welcome back, Superman," and everything else. It was like he never was late. He never was leaving. So what's the point? I mean, what's the point of doing these death scenes? Unless you're going to keep them dead, or unless you're going to give them a new purpose or a new apprentice that is likable, or unless you're going to do what they did to Batgirl, which a lot of people did not like when they made her walk again. Not because she was walking again, but because she became a more stronger character as the Oracle. And even by my standards, she was badass as the Oracle, Barbara Gordon. Unless you're going to do something like that, it was no point of going through that storyline. It just was a waste of time. But that's just me. That's just my opinion on that. That's just something that's been griping me for years. Because a lot of times when they do this, is because out of desperation. Even with the New 52 they're doing right now, let's be honest. The reason why they're doing the New 52 is because the comic book industry is not as strong as it once was. They have lost a lot of readership. People are not willing to spend the $3.99 or $5.99 for a comic book. Especially if they know they're not getting their bang for their buck. And the industry is pretty much desperate. They pretty much with the fact that we have the third party system is no longer relevant to a lot of creators in terms of the comic book business. They're looking to try and spice it up. They're looking to try and change it up. Is the 52 considered a success? It all depends on who you talk to. Some think it's is working. Some people think it's a waste of time and it's stupid. Others feel it's a disrespect for the other comics that came before them. In terms of that, I don't think it is, but I do believe that this measure, there's going to be some comics that will work well with the 52, others won't. It just all depends on how your taste on comics. But in any case, when it comes to death scenes like this, yeah, I just wish they stop. I really do. Captain America was like my last straw with the situation, because you kill off Captain America, but was upset, was mad. I'm like, half the people don't even read Captain America comics. When I heard they killed off Captain America and the way they killed him off, I said, okay, Steve Rogers is going to come back. I know that mostly he's a human being and he doesn't have any powers, but somehow they're going to bring him back. And guess what? They brought him back. And there you go. So what was the point of killing Captain America off? The Civil War didn't solve anything. To me, the Civil War has caused a lot of damage to most of my comics. One is particularly in Spider-Man. So what was the big issue? So again, deaths in comic books, in terms of major superheroes, it's pointless to me. But you guys may think differently. I'd like to hear your opinion on this. Do you think that it's necessary for them to kill off a character to shock the people into reading more? Or do you also feel it's a waste of time? Leave your comments below. Let me know. Until then, this is J77. Say take care. Be safe. Talk to you soon.